You're listening to the Grassroots Network podcast, exclusively on the Pod Station.
Welcome to the Grassroots Network podcast, proudly sponsored by the Grassroots Outlet. Our mission is to provide football coaches, players and clubs with quality coaching equipment at the best possible prices. Our brands include Nike, Puma, Precision and Diamond. You can find our complete selection of products at www.thegrassrootsoutlet.com. Use promo code TGN10 for 10% off at checkout with free delivery on orders over £150. That's www.thegrassrootsoutlet.com, supplying the game. So, hello everyone and welcome to the Grassroots Network podcast. So, on today's episode, I'm joined by Jamie Evans. So, Jamie, do you want to give us a little bit of background on yourself and where you are today?
Yeah, so basically, Zach, I've been within grassroots football for the past 10 years. It was due to the team actually not having a coach at the time when my kid was 6 years old. So I just stepped forward. One of the voluntary dads, had played football and whatnot. Injury made it more difficult. So I just stepped forward and sort of put my philosophies, easy for me to say, across to the kids and just had some fun, basically. Yeah. And then the pathway just opened up for me completely. Yeah.
So was it your oldest lad that you started coaching first of all, and then your youngest kind of jumped in?
You can't do one without the other.
No, you can't, can you?
That's the problem.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't want to neither. They're totally different characters. They're totally different players. My eldest son, Callum, is much more defensive minded, enjoys the hustle, the bustle, and a good tackle. Whereas Logan, he's much more attack minded. He likes to play the wings or sort of in the 10 role, if you like. You wouldn't dream of going backwards.
Are they quite similar in age?
Yeah, so Callum's 16 and Logan's 14.
Yeah, so there's 2 years, isn't there?
Yeah. It's great from sort of a, playing out in the park point of view, because Logan always played with Callum's mates. So you've sort of got that second child syndrome, haven't you, where he's in and around it and watching it. Does that create sort of a better player? I'm not sure, but he's certainly... he'll bounce off kids who are twice the size of him. He's got no problem.
Well, that was my next question. Do you think the younger child always seems to be a little bit better because from a younger age, they're out playing with the older kids? They're out competing, they're training, they're sort of having a kick about with those older kids. That from my experience, I've noticed the younger child always seems the one that's football mad and is hanging off his older brothers or older sisters, like coats and like, I'm coming with as well. Totally. And for some reason, they tend to be a bit of a better player. Now, I'm not going to put you on the spot and say which one's better, but have you noticed this in the kids?
Yeah, totally. Logan would come to every game that Callum was playing. So he'd be sort of there on the sidelines watching and just waiting for his turn. So obviously there's various groups that you can go to, and at a young age, both boys actually did the sort of the kiddie groups, if you like, and sort of fell in love with the game that way. And it is a love for the game and a passion that they've both got. Possibly Logan, he is more. There's always a ball. He's always outside in the garden. He's always practicing. Whereas Callum will do a little bit here and there. Logan seems to have that natural flair as well. So, during sort of the pandemic where there wasn't a lot to do, we're blessed because we've got a massive garden. So there's a net up there. So they were trying different things. Callum would have to practice. Logan would absolutely really just cheese him off because he'd find the top bin straight away.
First time.
Yeah. But that's across sport. So it's not just football that they do. They do a range of different sports, which I think has benefited them.
Yeah.
Throughout, because socially they're able to adapt into different circumstances. So Logan had various different trials and fitted in straight away, whereas Callum was a little bit more reluctant to go into something that he didn't know, if you know what I mean. It's a little bit more reserved, if you like. Knew his skill set, but was a little bit shy and getting pushed in a different way.
Yeah.
So yeah, probably to answer your question.
Yeah. Did you manage both boys' teams, or was it one or the other?
It's both, and it still is.
Yeah.
I do that sort of around my
Each
job
other.
and each other. Thursday night is training night, so I'll take both of them over sort of 3 hours. That's it. I'll just come away from work, straight in, all the kit's there, ready to roll, and we just spend 3 hours on the AstroTurf there, just working on various different things. Sometimes both groups will train together, just depending on numbers. It can be helpful, because they're both in sort of 11-a-side now.
Age
do you know
range,
what I mean? The age range isn't that bad. It's funny because throughout the journey, Callum's sort of parents and whatnot from his side have always said, can Logan not play for us? You know what I mean? Because he would train with his brother in the first portion, and then obviously with his own age range in the second portion. And that's sort of the end goal. I've always said, once I get into
senior football
and put them both into one side, a season or two of that, and that'll be that.
Yeah. Are you at the same club as well? Are both teams at the same club?
Yeah.
What club is it?
They're both with Hope Farm.
Oh, right, okay, yeah. So you're
nice
not being on a Friday night, are you?
No, we use the Sports Village.
Yeah.
And we have done for since it opened, basically.
Yeah.
We sort of took the half and said we'll utilise that completely.
For the both teams.
Yeah, both teams. So it makes it really simple that way. I haven't got to sort of go from one place to the next, if you like.
Yeah.
And then games can be a little bit tricky. So they both play in the Chester District Junior Football League, which generally on a Sunday, they'll try and do both at 2:00. So I've always got to sort of chat with different managers and say, is there any chance we can shift this a little way here or there? And then I'd find myself going from Malpas maybe, and then trekking off to Wallasey within the same afternoon.
Yeah.
So it's just
football though, isn't it? It's what you do. It's what you do for your children.
Totally.
And in a rare position of having the two boys, we've seen it with a couple of our players where, mum's got to go here and dad's got to go here, but for you it's a little bit different because you are managing both the teams.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. I'm blessed with the 16s. I've got sort of other coaches who help me out, who are parents for the lads in the team. So if I need to sort of do a warm up for the 16s, let's say, I know that I can leave that there for them to sort out, and then come in time for kickoff or whatnot, and just it's all WhatsApps and whatnot, isn't it? It's communication.
The biggest help for grassroots football, anyway.
Yeah, definitely.
So starting at the very beginning, where did your coaching journey start? So was it under 6s and 7s, and what level were you at the time, and how have you progressed since?
So it was just sort of brand new to coaching and kids. They were under 6, but they were midway through the season, and they basically said, we need someone to take this on, otherwise we're going to have to fold it. So it was sort of a group of us that were looking at each other, thinking, well, who's going to step first? What who wants this? And I just said, I'll have a go. I'm not shy. I'll see what we can do and just have some fun. And sort of from my coaching journey and thinking back to when I was a kid, and always based sessions around what would I like as a player, rather than, have them stood there in lines and kicking a ball and everything like that. It's what could make this fun. And it was all about sort of rotation. There was only 7 kids, so it was nice and simple. You had your 5 on the pitch and your 2 standing subs. Yeah. So sort of every 6 to 8 minutes, you just keep rotating. And everybody was more than happy. And it just grew. So obviously we did the level 1 first of all, because that was to do with the club. They sort of wanted to make sure that from a safeguarding point of view, the people with the relevant qualification, if you like. So we went from there. You sort of got bit with the bug.
Yeah.
It was weird because I'd done the course with sort of the FA tutors, but I learned the most from the other coaches that were in the room. So you're magpieing little bits as to what they're doing. It's like, well, this works for me. Great. I'll have a go at that. I'll have a bash and see what comes out of it. And yeah, from there, I then sort of looked at the futsal. So we went down to Tranmere at Prenton.
Yeah.
Got involved with the futsal there. Kids seemed to like it. It was an extra training, if anything else. Loads and loads of touches on the ball. So then I went and done the futsal level 1 and level 2 qualifications, just to sort of get more information and
add to your knowledge.
Add to the arsenal of knowledge that I had. Let that breathe for a while, and then went on to the level 2, and I've just recently accomplished the UEFA B. So where we go from there, I'm not sure.
Yeah. So from most coaches who I speak to, because I did my B license 3, 4, 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And apparently the B license has changed now. Have you done yours quite recently?
Yeah. Well, it's there's a lot of in situ stuff that they do now, and it's broken down into the sort of 4 modules. So it's only spread over 9 months. Was it? Did it used to be the 12? And then
I did mine over 12.
Yeah,
over the year.
Yeah. So again, all the information that the sort of the FA coaches will give you, and that is really helpful. But you're learning so much more within that room of the coaches that you're there with. And I did in between. I did the old youth mods.
Yeah.
So I did the mod 1 and mod 2.
Yeah.
They were fantastic.
They were brilliant.
Yeah. That sort of, that benefited me more, I felt, than the level 2. Sort of the information, everything. And obviously you're working around the youngsters. So it's all relevant then, isn't it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's then, do you take the next step
onto the A license?
Licenses.
I think if you look at the A license, it's more into professional game, because even with a B license, you could probably get a job in most.
Yeah.
So probably Cat 2 academies. You can still coach at a high level. You can go into non-league. There's a lot of stuff that it can lead to. But on your course, did you find that it was a lot of grassroots coaches, or was it other coaches from academies? Was it people who were within, again, like Everton the Community, Liverpool Foundation and stuff like that?
There was actually only 2. So there was a young girl who was at Stoke and a lad who was with the Everton ladies. Everybody else was grassroots
coach.
Yeah. Some of them were doing that in order to go and work within academies.
Yeah.
But some were they were at grassroots and they just wanted to broaden the knowledge of what they knew about the game and their understanding, I suppose. So yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Because it's obviously they've been on the same sort of journey as I've been. some of them were sort of the 6-year-olds. Some had started a little later at under 10s and so on. But yeah, just to find out a little bit about different people, the way that they're setting up and watching sessions that they're putting on. So we were put into a little grouping with the mentor, and then we could go and watch each other's sessions then put on. And even though it's all done and dusted, that's still happening. We're still in touch, and I'll drop by and have a look at a couple of different sessions and see the ideas that you think, right, I could utilize that. I could really make that work. And yeah.
Do you feel like the B license has benefited your two teams compared to, say, like the level 2? Is the knowledge that you gained on the B license applicable to what you've got with your 14s and 16s?
Massively. Definitely with the 14s. The 16s, they're more of a sort of a play for fun. So you've got variant different levels and abilities. So some of the stuff that you're putting into practice is a little bit beyond some of the understanding of some of the kids. So you've really got to start to try to break it down and make that session applicable to not just your better players with the understanding, but those as well. And I think that's the trick, isn't it? To try and put that information into a nutshell where everybody's going to get it, and then we can start to really dissect and push on different kids in different ways and try and bring them along.
Yeah, I think that's the mark of a good coach, the adaptability of how you can plan and how you can adjust your sessions for those varies of abilities. It's probably one of the biggest challenges I see in a lot of grassroots coaching, but I'd probably say you wouldn't need to be a B licensed coach. There's a lot of level 1 coaches and level 2 coaches who can do that, and they've just got a good rapport with the kids. I think to be a good coach, I think you've got to be a good person first. You've got to be quite approachable. You've got to be quite outgoing and stuff like that, and then the detail and the finer things sort of come after, which you can hone your skills in.
Yeah, totally. It is sort of the ethos of what I've tried to instill into the kids is all about that. Be a good person. So we'll do, especially with the 14s, we'll do different things activity wise off the pitch as well as on the pitch. They're a fantastic bunch of kids. They seem to be from different walks of life, but all really, really friendly with each other. There's no sort of units or cliques within, which you see in different teams. Like I said there, I'll go along and watch various coaching sessions that go on. You love the game, do you know what I mean? So you're trying to absorb as much information as possible. And you can see little groups that'll just be together, and they'll stand and they'll have the chat, and then there's another one there. It can be difficult to sort of gel things together then to get them sort of clicking and communicating on the pitch. And to me anyway, it always helps to have those parents on board, which is key to everything. And I'm blessed with a good set of parents for both groups who are keen to get involved and help out in any which way that they can, whether that's throwing a net up or, putting out the respect barrier or making sure that, little Johnny can get to a training session or to a game somewhere. It's difficult because without having that sort of support network, you are very isolated as that coach. You know what I mean? And that's something that I've done since I started. I've always tried to be as open and approachable as possible with both parents and players. And that way they seem to get the best out of everybody. Everybody. The difficulty is the sharing of the time and everything, especially as they get older. But I've never had it where the parents have come up and gone, look, I'm really unhappy with this. This isn't working for me. We're going to go off here, there, and everywhere. Generally, we'll lose players to academy setups, which is great because that's what they're there for.
That's what they're there for, aren't they? That's what ideal as a coach. You're trying to coach fun and enjoyment, but ultimately it's that development as well and send them to that next level. I mean, I find it remarkable that the amount of time you've done it, you've never had an issue with parents or anything. Because
it's not. I try to sort of be available. So I'll always say, I'll be around for the next 20 minutes if you want to have a chat or whatnot. And it's not. There's not a particular point in time for either side where I could say, right, that really didn't go well there. That conversation was terrible.
Yeah.
If you flip that though with oppositions, that can be interesting. Shall we say?
I mean, from my experience, we've had issues in the past, and through probably fault of my own for not being open and honest. And as you go through and you learn over your experiences and stuff, I think the last 3 years is where me and my oppo, we've managed to say, right, okay, we've got to be upfront and honest with people. We've got to make sure that we are communicating effectively with parents through the whole thing. And then that way, when any issues do arise, then you can say, okay, well, we did communicate this at certain points and we gave you the opportunity to come and speak to us and stuff like that. When a bit of background on me, I took over an under-6s team at MSC Eastham, and I was a lad who was finished playing at 21. I fell out of love a little bit of football. I'd done me level 1 and level 2 in college.
Right.
And I got a phone call off a friend, and my cousin, who I lived with at the time, got a phone call off a friend and was like, got a guy who runs a football team. I know you've got coaching qualifications. Do you want to go and help him out? 21, young lad. I was like, yeah, I'll do it. And the lessons I've learned from there all the way through to now, 10 years later, my daughter's 3. She'll be 4 in 2 weeks' time. And because she's going to play football because she's been around it for a long time, I would do things so differently, so much differently. I know a lot more how to do things, and it's an interesting journey that we go on. So if we were to say, for example, your sons and stuff like that, they have daughters or sons of their own, what advice would you give them when you started? Would you give them any pearls of wisdom?
I would probably say just approach it with fun in mind. First and foremost, you want the child's experience to be as good as your own. That said, when I was playing back in the 80s, things were very, very different.
Win at all costs.
It was win at all costs. Training was really, really intense and unenjoyable at times.
A lot of fitness without the ball.
Yeah. Loads and loads of running. Wall squats where you'd be sat against a brick wall, and if you dropped, a ball would be fired at you. You'd probably be arrested for anything like that now. Do you know what I mean? But at the time, parents were more than happy, and they were like, "Well, it works because
is that what it takes to be a footballer?
That's what it is." And I can remember a game where I could have only been about 9 years old on a full 11-a-side pitch, full-size goals, full-size ball, absolutely belting it down with rain. So all the kids were just shivering, and I think we must have been beaten heavily because the coach at the time stood us still in the rain for a good hour afterwards, giving us a full-on dressing down. And we were kids, you know, you just wanted to go back and play with your Lego or whatever.
Yeah.
You weren't.
The results have gone for you, haven't they?
Completely gone. Completely gone. And it was. That's something that sort of recollection is sort of what drives me to make sure that if I was that player now, what would I want out of this? So you can still sort of get that detail across, get that information across.
And still make it competitive, can't
you? Completely, because, they do want to win.
Yeah.
There's
no getting away from that.
There's not.
There's no you can say all you want about winning v development, but ultimately that's why we play the game of football.
Yeah.
Is to win it. Now, don't get me wrong, you can have enjoyment losing it and you can have enjoyment winning it. I think that's the difference, is teaching the kids. We were at a tournament up in Failsworth. We go every year.
Right.
We've got like some stuff that we take around tournaments in the UK. And there was a granddad giving his grandsons a talking to because they'd had a huff because they'd been beaten. And he sat them down. He said, "Look, kids," he said, "there's 3 things about football." He said, "If you can't handle winning, if you can't handle losing, you can't handle drawing a football match," he said, "you shouldn't be playing." And it's as simple as that. And that for the last 2 years has resonated with me as well, about how to coach a lot of children, about how to coach the attitude and the right way to sort of win and the right way to sort of lose.
That's it.
It's a tough and it's a fine line in that regard, isn't it?
It is. And it's the momentum that you build through sort of winning games. And then suddenly, if they come up against a team that they're unfamiliar with and they've got to defeat, well, you've got to then start to pick them up. And it's for them to comprehend, but okay, we've lost this game because of X, Y, or Z. It's not just, they're superior to us. It's a competitive game and there's 1 or 2 goals within it. It's a lapse in concentration or something that is out of our control. And you try to control those controllables where you can. But then we used to do it where for the player of the game, you'd have the parents give that out. So they've got a little something to do. And some games you'd be baffled because you'd be thinking, what have they seen that I've not seen there, that they've selected little Johnny to give that trophy to this week? And then I started to wonder, well, are they picking them sort of, well, he's had it twice, so he's not had it. Yeah, we want to sort of
give him that self-esteem and the boost.
Yeah. But it's an opinionated game, isn't it?
Of course.
You know what I mean? So it is, as long as they sort of justified what they were saying at that moment. Yeah. Fine. Yeah. Got no problem whatsoever.
Well, that's why you have like assistant coaches. That's why you have us, my under 15s team. We have 3 of us. We have me and Dave and Lee, but Lee is a parent in the team who's come on board, and me and Dave's daughter used to play for us.
Right.
And I haven't got a kid in the team, but as a group of 3, there's stuff that me and Dave might not see, but Lee'll see, and we work together. And I think, as you were saying there about parents seeing certain things that you might not see, because you might be focusing your attention on a striker who's like you said, need that confidence, need that boost, or you centre half he's constantly getting skinned in a 1v1 and you're trying to coach him through it. Yeah. The parents have got an eye on the entire game. There's 15 of them and 1 of you.
Yeah, that's it.
Like you said before, getting them parents involved and helping you out, it all adds to the different sorts of experience and it makes it better in a sense. If you have a group of good parents like yourself.
That's key, to have the good parents. And it is, we have a parent liaison officer. So
at the club,
it's within each team at the club. So it's the club's idea that this would be introduced.
That's a very good idea. Yeah, that's a very, very good idea. Yeah.
Because then if the parent or player doesn't feel that they can approach me or the assistant, with whatever problem that they might have, they can go to them first, and they might say, well, yeah, this definitely needs resolving, and we'll go and chat, and they're present as well. And sometimes it's something or nothing, and they'll go, well, yeah, that, we can deal with this way. But that is absolute. That's been in place for 4 seasons almost.
Is it found it's been worked throughout the whole club as well?
Yeah, I believe so. So some sides within, so I think it's the lower age groups, they have 2 or 3 just to try and get them more involved. And like you said before, it might be that mum's got to take them this week, and because dad's away, or vice versa. So I think, to me, it's easier with that sort of one go-to rather than getting everybody's take on it, because that could be a little bit messy, couldn't it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's not very streamlined, is it?
No.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely something that I would say to people, yeah, that this is the way forward, because you haven't got to deal with absolutely everybody all at once. They've got different channels that they can go down, and if there's problems within a game, within opposition or whatever, it can go back through them, through the welfare or wherever it need go, and it just takes a little bit of the pressures off. Because I mean, I don't know about yourself, but it's a full-time job.
100%.
You know what I mean?
100%. Yeah.
There's not enough hours in the day sometimes.
No, of course, there's not. You find that your grassroots life takes over your day job.
Yeah.
Most of the time. I mean, like I said before, I'm really lucky that we've got a team of 3 of us. Now, I kind of handle the coaching, the game day, the tactical training side of it. Dave picks up a lot of the admin. I mean, he's a health and safety inspector for BA,
right?
For aeroplanes.
Yeah.
So he is on it.
Yeah.
Everything. And that helps as well, because the admin side of it is the bane of most grassroots coaches' lives, whether it be whole game being down, whether it be player registrations, going to another coach and saying, have you got your team sheet? Have you got this, that and the other?
Yeah.
Realistically, so most of the time it can be viable. But again, at the end of the day, you're volunteers, and 3 or 4 hours of your working week is probably spent on grassroots stuff.
Oh yeah, and definitely.
A lot of people want to see their families. I mean, they get to spend it with the kids and stuff like that. But your poor missus.
Well, she's got no chance, because there's 3 males in the house.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? She has to go to my sister to take her niece out to just get some girly time and whatnot. She's fantastic, to be fair. She's really, really supportive of both of the boys and everything with me. And I'm fortunate that I work within football.
Yeah.
And that means a lot of travel and a lot of time away as well. So if I need something, like Sunday just gone, I'd packed the car up, gone off to work, was headed straight for the game, and then realised I've forgotten the medikit. So it's a quick phone call. Any chance? Oh yeah, I suppose so. And there it is. And there's a cup of tea as well.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean? It's just looked after. It's the little touches.
I think one thing that's not appreciated is partners. So my wife, we've been together for about 6 years in January it'll be, and she's fully adopted the whole thing.
Yeah. She
was like, when we had our daughter, she was like, she could be a dancer, she can go into gymnastics. And not me, because I'm not really fussed whether she plays football or not. Being a football coach, everyone goes, I bet you wanted to play football. Well, but she can do what she wants.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, she's going to be a footballer. She's going to be a footballer. And then it got to a certain point when she was 2. And obviously you back gardens, like your storeroom, isn't it? For all your kit.
Yeah.
And she picks up a ball and just starts kicking it and dribbling. And she's like 2 years old, and my wife just goes, oh God, here we go all over again.
Yeah.
And now she plays football on a Saturday morning at like Tots footy and stuff, and it's like, it's going to start all over again, and everyone's looking at you then going, when she goes into a team, are you going to do it? And you're like, oh, I don't know.
It's interesting because when it's sort of your child, they get all the benefit, but there's a lot that comes with it.
They're the first ones at training. They take all the gear.
One to leave.
They're the first ones who, in a game, they're probably brought off first. They're a little bit. They probably get a little bit more pressure put on them because they are a coach's son, and they've got to listen. They're not just another kid within the session. They can't mess around with the mates because you've got to listen. I'm not dad now. I'm coach and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think I'm probably going to struggle with that transition because, let's face it, I'll probably end up taking the team anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm going to find it difficult because I've always had a disconnect from our team, whereas I haven't got a child on the team. I am completely unbiased.
Yeah.
I see things subjectively and I go on the group and stuff like that. And I've always liked that I haven't had, a reason to stay. I've done it. And I can say to the boys, look, I'm here out of my own time.
Yeah.
You've got to put the effort in, and that's worked over the years. But when it comes to that, it's gonna be a bit of a difficult transition. So
definitely.
Well, with you working in football, what's your role? Because I think you said you were in women's football with Man City.
So I work globally. So we have international groups that'll come in and work with us. It's very much sort of a commercial arm of the company, if you like. So there'll be youth development programs that we run. There's different partnerships that we'll have come in and working with kids from sort of 8 years old right the way through to under 18 and men at times. So it's they'll do specific days for partners. So there's a massive tournament that they hold for Nissan. So they'll fly in from all over the world to play, and these are just sort of factory workers or car salesmen or whatever that might be. There's never a day that is the same. It's fantastic. I've always said my dad has got a proper job. He's a mechanical fitter. I've not got a proper job. It's just fun. It's, you're getting up in the morning. Sometimes it's an early start because you're on the pitch for 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
So you're sort of getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning. But, Kim, my wife, has always said, how do you manage to get up? Well, it's easy because it's something that you love and it's something that you want to do, and you're just going to get more and more information and more detail, and you'll get better at your role. So I started as a sort of casual coach, and then through my time there, which is coming up for 6 years, it's now that I'm coordinating groups. I think the next progression would be sort of at a desk, and not as much, not as much pitch time.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot that goes on behind where you're communicating with parent or player or different people who are coming in, and it's 90 miles an hour. But you're surrounded by like-minded people who
all within football,
all with different backgrounds, all doing various different roles, all different ages, but you get on like a house on fire because you've got that sort of that common ground.
Well, there's never anything short of topics to talk about, isn't there?
No,
especially
never ever, never ever.
Yeah.
And we've had groups over from the likes of Uruguay who speak literally no English whatsoever, but you're communicating with them just through a tactic board and a little demo or something like that, and you can see the beam of joy on their face when they go, actually, yeah, I get this now. And it's communicating without communicating.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's an international language. It's a love and a passion that you just sort of can't get enough of. Although I'm mindful there'll be a day where you'll go, I do just, how nice would it be just to stand the other side and just have a watch?
Yeah.
Rather than thinking about, what have I got to put on now?
Being emotionally invested.
Yeah. And it's just, even when you come in from work or whether you come in from doing a grassroots session or game or whatever that is, the TV's on and
it's footy.
It's football.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. And it's sort of the standard joke is, it's just football from when you're up until when we're going to bed.
Yeah.
It just doesn't switch off.
No.
Which is fantastic. You know what I mean? Because the boys absolutely adore it as well. And they're fortunate that we'll go live games as well, through work, or they're both very, very different in positions and they're very different in clubs.
City, United, or Liverpool?
Yeah, Logan is Manchester City and Callum is Manchester United.
That must be fun.
I'm Tranmere, so you know what I mean? It doesn't
affect you, does it?
No,
are you on the wind up?
That's it, constantly. But yeah, it fell quite nicely a couple of times. We were in the Papa John's Trophy and played Man City under 21s.
Yeah.
So Logan was made up and I was happy because I'm there watching my team. And then it was must be 3 seasons ago. United played Tranmere in the FA Cup.
Yeah,
so
did, didn't he? Harry Maguire, from what I can remember, Harry Maguire scored a screamer, didn't he?
Yeah, he did, yeah.
And then he celebrated like it was a career-defining goal for him.
So yeah, it was great that, sort of worlds collide. That's the
and
beauty
it's very
of the
far
game.
and few between, isn't it?
Yeah. So unless it's pre-season where you play Liverpool and you'd go up and have a watch of that. They'd obviously been to took both boys to like Old Trafford or to Etihad to watch the games, but we used to go regular to Prenton Park, and they couldn't believe that in the Johnny King stand there, you can pick your own seat. What do you mean? We haven't got to just sit where we're going. Yeah. No, pick your seat, pick wherever you want to go. And then we played Chester.
The big one.
Massive, absolutely massive. So all the police helicopters are out, the horses, the full it.
The Chester fans getting escorted down to Prenton Park, down Borough Road.
But normally we just literally pull up, jump out, go through the turnstile.
Yeah.
They couldn't work it out. They were like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
And I said, this is massive.
Yeah.
This is huge. And they just couldn't comprehend, all this sort of police presence for Tranmere and Chester.
Yeah.
Obviously, they'd been used to seeing it around your Premiership level.
Yeah.
But
not at that level.
The little minds were blown completely.
They want to come here in the FA Vars. So last year, I think I've told the story, but last year we had South Shields here.
Right.
In the FA Vars, and they brought 300 fans, 400 fans down with them, and 3 coach loads it was. And they got here at 12 and the team bus got here at like 1, 2. So they were all tanked up downstairs, drinking and bevying, singing songs. It was, to be fair, it was a fantastic day and they were lovely fans. They were great. Their team bus is pulling in. They all get on the phones and like, yeah, they're pulling in. The poor residents in the houses over there, they had flares going off, banners, everything. Even us as like a club committee, we were stood like bringing the players through, and it was like they were in the Premier League. It was fantastic. And one of my takeaways from that is you don't have to go to the Premiership to enjoy days like that.
No, not at all.
There's a lot of non-league football that's like that. I mean, we're quite lucky because you've got Leeds, you've got Vauxhalls, you've got Asheville now in the counties and stuff like that. But even like at our level, we had Macclesfield here last year that brought like 700 fans to this football club, and it was, don't get me wrong, it was a nightmare because Macclesfield they're a nightmare.
Yeah.
But this year we've got Bury in our league as well, the Phoenix Club Bury.
Yeah.
So they'll probably bring about 700-800 fans with them, and it's especially on a Tuesday night. On a Tuesday night, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Proper footy nights, cold, bit wet, nice pie downstairs and cup of tea. But a lot of younger kids don't understand that you're a stone throw and £10 away from a half decent game of footy on your doorstep.
Yeah.
And you don't have to go and spend 30, 40 quid to go and watch Liverpool, Everton. To be fair, even Tranmere's tickets are very reasonable. If you're not going to go and watch Liverpool or Everton, go and watch Tranmere. If you can't make it to Tranmere, go and watch non-league footy.
Yeah. That's it.
Yeah.
We say to the players, see as much as you can. See it live. The women's Euros, I sort of said to them, watch that because with no disrespect, it's a slower game. So you can see that formation.
I find it a little bit more tactical, yeah, a little bit more tactical and a little bit more technical than the men's game's pace, power, physicality. That's it. But the female game, it's tactical and technical. But you look at in terms of the women's game, Sunday at a 3 o'clock kickoff or Sunday at a 5:30 kickoff, because Liverpool women play at Prenton Park, don't they?
Yeah, of course.
And how accessible they are. We've got a lot of girls teams at Vauxhalls, and they've all got season tickets for Liverpool. And Tranmere ladies train here, and they play at the Sports Village, don't they?
Yeah, they do, yeah.
And the amount of girls teams here and boys teams that go and watch those games, because it's getting that traction and more popular now.
Absolutely.
I mean, because you're involved in the women's side as well, aren't you?
I do a bit of the girls stuff. The under-14s are actually going to play the academy girls in 2 weeks' time. So that's going to be an interesting, because I've got 2 girls within the 14s group. One, she only trains with us, but there's one who's signed up. And her mum was saying she's played since she was 7 years old. So she's played at various different clubs. She wants to be a professional footballer. So this is going to be an eye-opener for her to see what it takes sort of at that academy level. And then there's another step after that, do you know what I mean? But yeah, her mum was saying she'd been playing since she was sort of 7, 8 years old. Never, ever, ever scored. So I was like, okay. So I'd rotated her a couple of positions, and Sunday just gone, she scored. The delight in that girl's face was unbelievable. I had to sub her off about 3 or 4 minutes after it, because she was high.
She was buzzing still.
She was absolutely just like ecstatic, and she wasn't concentrated on the game whatsoever. The sort of players were flying past her, but she was just beaming. Yeah, and I was just like, I'm just come off,
have a chill for a second,
chill out. Enjoy your moment with your mum, which her mum was disappointed because it was the FA had asked for a sort of a silent weekend, which the league had said we suggest, we're not enforcing, but we suggest you follow. Which they did to a T. And even when she scored, her mum didn't shout or cheer or anything. Yeah.
See that?
She suppressed the lot.
That disappoints me, that. So we've had Bromber and Eastham chairman on here, and we've talked about stuff like this, because we've talked about it in academy setting, where at Liverpool, Preston, where I previously had been, they'd done stuff like this where parents are not allowed, it's coaches' voices only.
Yeah.
And then I was quite in favour of it, and then I spoke to Reece, and he was like, well, if you do that at grassroots, you take all the emotion and all the atmosphere out of it. He said, you go down to Levers or you go down to South Wirral where they play their games, even down here on a Saturday. And if you walk through them gates and you hear the buzz of kids playing football and the oohs and the ahs, that's what it's about for me. Obviously, it's got to be positive. It's got to be.
Yeah.
It can't be parents screaming instructions and
not at all.
Go and do this. And on the other side as well, coaches doing. Now, don't get me wrong, I've been culpable with it in the past of giving tactical advice and saying, look, you've got to get there, you've got to do this, you've got to do this. I think we all have.
Yeah.
But I think that takes the emotion out of it. With positive encouragement coming from the parents, I've had a bit of a mindset shift on it where you've got to have some sort of atmosphere at grassroots. You can't kill it. Can't kill the atmosphere from it.
No, I think talking to the players afterwards, they didn't feel like they'd been at the game type thing, because it was, you could hear both sorts of coaches, you could hear the referee, which was actually quite refreshing.
Yeah.
Because of all sorts of the hustle bustle that's going on behind me, and you're trying to be in that moment and you know, ask the question of the player as to what could you do better there if that comes up again. You know, this is what we worked training wise. What can you do? You don't sort of hear what the referee does until he's blowing or anything like that. But the referee there Sunday, he was actually talking the kids through. And it was a normal chat. It wasn't sort of, you know, football based.
Yeah.
It was like, you okay there? Your laces undone. You okay? You look a little bit flushed. What have you been up to? Have you been up to something before it? So it sort of normalizes that human rather than because he's dressed in black. He's the villain of the piece.
Yeah, I was going to say he's that authority, isn't he, of the game?
Yeah,
that a lot of people don't like.
No, and like I say, had that not have been, you wouldn't be privy to that sort of conversation that goes on.
No.
And the 16s aren't so bad, but the 14s, if you say to them, oh, what did the ref say then? Oh, don't know. You know what I mean? It's literally seconds.
Yeah.
It's in, and either it registers completely or
it doesn't at all. It's
straight away.
Yeah.
You know, and we sort of, when we're talking about the game or a training session or anything like that, we try not to use the word good. We try and get them to be a little bit more detailed about what they're saying, because good's just
it's very general, isn't it? Yeah, it's general. It doesn't seem like there's any thought process behind it as well, does it?
No,
like they've just gone, it was all right.
Yeah, it was good. Yeah, I enjoyed that. Yeah. But why? Oh, because it was good.
Because we were playing football.
Yeah.
Because we were doing matches. Because we were doing this.
That's it.
Yeah. It's tough. It's tough. The biggest thing around that as well is as you get to that age group, they hit puberty. They hit other things in life become a little bit more important. Whether it be they've found the opposite sex, whether they found going out with their friends, and a lot of kids drop off, and it's a shame, really. But I'll go back to the girls bit, because have you found there's been an uptick in participation for girls?
Massively.
Yeah.
Massively.
Yeah.
So I was actually over in America, working in, it was called So5 Soccer Centres. So it's a similar setup to Goals. So it's a partnership that goes on with City, and the girls' game out there is it's not as big as what the boys is, but the girls are streets ahead.
Yeah,
absolutely streets ahead. There was a few players that I'd sort of spotted out there, and you know, sort of made that contact back home to say, you know, we need to look at a pathway here, because these are absolutely unbelievable talents at sort of 12 and 13 years old. So yeah, it's taken off. It's getting more and more coverage, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? So it's something that has that growth, and there's investment and whatnot going behind it now. So there's obviously the Wildcat thing, the
program, the FA
program, yeah. So that sort of got more girls involved. it's nice. It's nice that in the 14 setup that there are girls still sort of playing. And we're not the only team within the league that have got females in sort of a mixed team. And it's that sort of the fearless almost, and the sort of going, well, yeah, I'll show you what I'm worth type thing up against the boys. And then when they're going away back into, because they'll play Saturday as well for all girls outfit, they're sort of taking that into the game. It's a little bit more physical, and they've got a bit more of an edge about them, I suppose.
Well, would you advocate for girls to play in mixed teams rather than female only? See, I'd say exactly the same. So we're going back to it. Dave's daughter played for us from when she was 6 through to 13 till I think she was allowed to by the FA, but I think they've scrapped that now. I think they've scrapped 18. It where you can play. Yeah. And she went off and played for Tranmere.
Right.
And speaking to her dad, she was like, she's head and shoulders in terms of her physicality and the way she plays and runs ahead of most of the girls. And there was another girl as well, Izzy, who played for an opposite team to us. And they were the two that stood out because they played with boys' teams for so long. I think going to the root of it, I think a lot of schools are starting to do it now where you can have participation in football. And I think that's an important part. There's a girl who comes to our group sessions and her mum was like, she's good enough to play in the boys' schools team, but they wouldn't let her because she was a girl. And you were like, oh, that seems a little bit wrong. Why? What's the process behind that? What's the sort of the policies within schools? Like in terms of PE in secondary school, I always remember the boys used to go play footy on an Astro for a PE lesson and the girls would go into the dance studio. Yeah. And now, in this day and age, I think something like that's got to change where surely there's got to be a choice of if a girl enjoys playing football in school. Totally. Can't they do that? I think because I'm a massive fan of the girls' game and having loads of teams. I've got very close friends who manage women's teams as well. And it's getting better and better. And you just want to push it because I bet you there's girls out there who probably were a little bit scared to play football maybe 5-10 years ago. Now they get the opportunity to do it, but it's got to be better for the girls coming through. Yeah.
It is. And it's that sort of, it's educating almost, isn't it? To go, well, you can include if they are sort of good enough at that sort of standard, then why not?
Yeah.
We literally, this past weekend, I was working with a group that had come in from Scotland, and there was one girl within that team. She was head and shoulders above all of them. You know, and she played with sort of I think the mindset was that she was the girl, so she had to be
that extra step, that extra bit. Yeah.
And it wasn't needed because you could see she was reading the game much more quickly, sort of a speed that she was moving toward the ball or moving for the ball to create the space. It was streets ahead of what the lads were. And it was interesting to watch because they were all the same team. But obviously within the session, they'll be playing against each other. The lads were quite standoffish.
What age was this?
These were 11 and 12-year-olds.
Yeah, it sounds about right, really, doesn't it? Because it gets to, I think it 7s, 8s, 9s, the male-female sort of psyche. It doesn't, because they're all kids. Yeah. They don't know any better.
Yeah.
And for want of a better term, I think the boys get a little bit older and they realise that it's a girl. Now, rightfully or wrongfully, it's that sort of, whether they feel like they're vulnerable to a boy's physicality.
Yeah.
But you find a lot of girls don't really care. And they would probably much rather the boys be that little bit more sort of one step ahead and try the very best to play. So
it's interesting because the conversation has already started with the girls within our 14s group. Do they carry on from here?
Yeah.
And it will get more physical, the testosterone levels start to kick in and they get a little bit more aggressive and whatnot in the challenges. But I've sort of backed them and said, well, you know what? They're actually, they'll give as good as they get. Yeah. So why not? If it was the fact that they were now feeling uncomfortable and didn't want to be in and around it, perfect. That's fine. There's no issue there. But if it's just because, well, we're at that age now where we need to make a choice, it's stick with it.
Yeah.
If that's what you're enjoying, if that is where you're flourishing and getting the best development, stay.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be that you're sort of shutting the door on that particular road and going, well, this is it now. There you go. I watched, well, it would have been about 5 seasons ago. I watched the Chester District have a cup competition, the cup final. And there were 2 girls that were playing in that, and that was under 16s. And they actually got, one of them got the player of the game. And she was outstanding. She was a left back. Absolutely flying forwards. Delivered the ball exactly where that striker wanted it. Bang on the spot every time. There was no mistakes from her whatsoever. And it was the same thing where the lads would just drop off her a touch and just not
give her that
quite
space.
Engage. Yeah. She was lapping it up.
Yeah, she was
absolutely
taking that space
with it. You know what I mean? Because she was allowed that opportunity, that extra yard or so, and she was punishing them. Really punishing, and they didn't like it, but they wouldn't do anything about it.
Yeah, well, that's a strange one because you'd think they'd eventually, just after 1 or 2.
Get involved.
Get there. Go and get it off her.
Totally.
Don't let her do that.
No, you can't. You can't just keep letting her have the ball to go and exploit the gaps that you're leaving in behind you.
No.
So yeah, it is. I think it's the world we're living in as well, where things are more accepted now, aren't they? As to when I was younger. You a girl playing football? That just wouldn't happen at all. How many missed opportunities would there be there?
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Well, that's now, isn't it? We're coming further down the line. Are we going to accept that? Are we going to accept that women play at the same standard? Are we going to accept that girls coming into the game are to be treated as in a normal match would be? I think that's the big block to get over now. I mean, there's a team at Vauxhall's here that are a very, very good girls team, and they play in a boys league. I think they're Division 2 in the Eastern League at under 11s, maybe, I think. And they play in a boys league, and Toddy, their manager's like, it's the best thing for them. Said, okay, they might get out muscled every now and again, or they might do this, but they'll play them off the park.
Yeah.
And I think that should be allowed. I think because there's probably a lack of female leagues, and not lack as in no one wants to do it. It's because it's building and it's progressing. But why can't we put? Is there anything saying that we can't put girls teams into mixed leagues? I would fully endorse that.
Yeah, totally. Because again, it's about the development for them. You know what I mean? It's like when you get a kid. I've got a couple who play up a year because that's the way they're going to develop, So if
it challenges them, it pushes them on.
If that's acceptable, then why not? If you're at the same sort of levels and it's going to push each other on, that you'd fully sort of endorse that, wouldn't you?
And I think it slowly and progressively gets rid of the stigma of the girls team. We'll roll these because they're a girls team, or we don't need to go as hard because they're a girls team, and try and play to the best of your ability, regardless whether it's a girls team, boys team, mixed team, whatever. I think that slow progression to getting rid of that and just competing it's team v team.
That's it.
Is what you want.
You know, it's disappointing sometimes where you'll go and play a side where you'll still hear, you know, little Johnny's dad shouting, "You just got beat by a girl. Don't let a girl beat you." And it's like, well, actually, he got beat by a player.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The players, while they're on that pitch, they're just players. It's irrelevant as to what sex it is. It's just, we're there to play a game.
Yeah.
But again, it's mindset, isn't it? Unfortunately.
Yeah. We had it, so when we were under 13s, I think, or 14s, might have been 13s our first year, 11 aside, we went and played Liverpool's under 14s girls. And I can't remember his second name, but Carla was the manager, and Darren Bowles, who was an ex-FA tutor, he was part of the Liverpool setup at the time.
Was.
And
that's right.
He did my B license, and we went and played them. And then the boys, a couple of months later, I can't remember the score of the game, but it was a close game, and the girls played fantastic football. We played decent football. It was a very, very tight match. And a couple of weeks later, I can remember one of the kids saying, "Yeah, but it's only a girls' team." And you're like, "Hey, mate," I said, "They played better football than you guys.
Yeah,
they were more physical. They were more technical. They were better on the ball than you guys. And to be honest, the result could have gone either way. So don't act like you'd be all and end all.
Yeah.
It's team v team." Yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it? And hopefully, fingers crossed, progressively getting better and better as time goes on, with the investment, even with the Wildcats program and stuff like that.
Yeah,
the participation's getting more, the leagues are getting better.
That's it. As the standards improve and it gets sort of it's visually out there. Back at City, the girls, on average, they'll get about 4,500 spectators. Whereas a couple of seasons back, you talking maybe 1,000, if that. So you can see progressively that it is growing the game, and the adverts that you're getting with the women's Euros.
Yeah. Well, those girls are superstars now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolute superstars. Yeah. And to be fair, the personalities behind them as well, like Leah Williams, Mary Ep6, like they're all characters.
Yeah.
And they're all larger than life, and rightfully so at the moment. So they should be, because they're setting examples to these young girls.
Yeah.
And there was a couple of, I don't know whether it was TV awards, they won an award, and they all look stunning. And it's that separation of footballer where we're still women, but we're also footballers, and that's that direction that it seems to be going in.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a brand in Manchester. I think they're all over the place, but Miss Kick, and they're specifically a brand for training wear and stuff for female footballers.
Right.
And they're fantastic. The promotional work they do and the movement to get sort of equality for women's football is fantastic. Like I said, we went to a tournament in Failsworth and we met up with them, and they're just brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And hopefully it can keep on growing and growing and growing. So yeah, totally.
It's you look for that equality through all sports, really. Was watching the rugby the other morning. So the girls' side of that is growing. It's not just through football. It's sort of that movement, isn't it, through sport?
Within sport and society. Yeah. No, it's been good. Jamie, thank you very much, mate. I've really enjoyed this conversation.
I have as well, Zach.
Yeah.
Thanks for inviting me over.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, and hopefully maybe we can do a bit of a coaching podcast where we can talk a little bit more tactical, physical, and practice side of things, which would be really fun.
Yeah, definitely.
So but Jamie, thank you very much for coming on, mate. I appreciate it.
Pleasure. Thanks very much.
Get social at the Grassroots Network on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook.